Brother, let me hit you with something most men never see coming. The end of a marriage doesn't end the story, it detonates it. You think the shockwave hits her harder, but the truth is brutal. It hits you later, when you least expect it. And that delayed impact, that's the part that takes your breath, your sleep, your sense of who the hell you were supposed to be. Because after the divorce, something happens to your wife, or the woman you thought you knew. She doesn't just leave the house. She sheds the version of herself she was with you. And the woman that comes out on the other side, she's a stranger forged by every fight, every silence, every unspoken bruise you never paid attention to. You can feel it in the air, like walking into a room that's been emptied but still smells like something burning. And that's when the air shifted. The moment you sense that whatever is coming next isn't the woman you married, it's the woman built from everything you didn't see. But here's what no one tells you. If you misunderstand this truth, if you treat her post-divorce transformation like some petty phase, life hits you harder. Because this isn't about her becoming better, it's about her becoming unrecognizable. Her silence turns into sharp clarity. Her exhaustion hardens into a kind of hyper-independence you can't break through, even if you wanted to try. And when she finally stops lowering her needs for you, you realize those needs were the only things keeping the relationship breathing at all. This is the moment most men never notice. The moment she transforms, not out of rage, not out of victory, but out of the simple fact that she's done. And just when you think it's over, it isn't. I remember the night it all made sense. Paperwork signed, keys handed over, her footsteps echoing on hardwood like she was walking out of the version of her life she didn't want anymore. And me? I stood in the doorway like an idiot who finally realized the house was colder with every breath I took. The room felt different all of a sudden, not because she left, but because the silence she used to fill was gone. Even the air felt sharper, like winter had moved inside the walls. There was a quiet second, and everything clicked. This wasn't the end for her, it was the beginning. And for me, it felt like the ground shifted under my boots. Internal monologue hit me like a confession I wasn't ready for. How long was she waiting to become someone else? How did I miss the warning signs she was disappearing? That's the emotional contradiction men never talk about. You want to hate her for changing, but you can't, because deep down, some part of you always knew she was breaking long before she walked away. You replay every small moment, every time she swallowed her frustration, every time she made herself smaller to keep the peace. And suddenly, those memories don't feel like love. They feel like clues to a crime you didn't know you committed. And that's when you start fighting yourself. Your hands shake when you pack away her side of the closet. Your throat tightens when you find the sweater she always wore when she was sad. Your chest feels heavy, like someone is pushing down on your ribs. You don't miss her. Not really. You miss the version of her that still believed in you. The one you could have saved if you weren't so busy surviving instead of paying attention. I could feel something inside me turning. Something cold, something honest, something I spent years avoiding. That sense that the real loss wasn't her walking away. It was me waking up too late. Micro-stake. If I reacted wrong in that moment, if I hardened, blamed, shut down, I would have lost the part of myself that still had the capacity to grow, to understand, to become better instead of bitter. But men don't choose the healthy path first. We choose the familiar one. So I did what any stubborn man does. I tried to outrun the feeling, tried to drown it with noise, tried to pretend her transformation wasn't happening right in front of me. But the silence changed before the truth did, and I felt it. The sting, the burn, the quiet humiliation of realizing she wasn't just moving on. She was rising out of the ashes of the life we had built, while I was still choking on the smoke. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror that first night alone, eyes red, jaw clenched, hands gripping the sink like I was trying to keep myself upright. And the man staring back didn't look strong, didn't look wise, didn't look like a victim either. He looked like someone standing in the wreckage of his own blind spots. And when that truth hits you, brother, you either own it or it breaks you. And just when I thought the moment was done, it wasn't. Because that's when the emotional knife twists. That's when you start seeing her new life pop up in little glimpses. A different smile on social media, a new haircut, a tone in her voice you haven't heard in years. not angry, not hurt, just free. That's when you realize the marriage didn't end. Her version of herself did. And the one being born now, you don't get access to her anymore. Exhale. Let that sink in. Brother, this is where the truth stops being poetic and starts cutting bone. Because after the divorce, the transformation she goes through isn't random. It's predictable. It's psychological. It's the evolution most men never see until they're standing outside her new life, looking in through the glass like a stranger. And the room felt different all of a sudden. Because these aren't just revelations about her. They're revelations about you. You think the quiet she had at the end of the marriage meant she was done feeling. But numbness is never the finish line. It's the reboot. It's the moment when her emotions go on lockdown so her mind can start rebuilding itself with a kind of clarity men rarely survive unprepared. When she finally goes silent, that's not surrender. That's strategy. She stops reacting to you because she's starting to react to her own truth. The silence changed before the truth did. And if you miss this insight, brother, the same pattern will hunt you in every future relationship. You know what hits a man the hardest? Watching a woman who once needed him suddenly stop needing anything from him at all. No calls, no questions, no emotional leaning, just cold self-sufficiency. Hyper-independence looks empowering from the outside, but inside, it's built from the rubble of every time she felt alone while still standing next to you. It's like watching someone you used to protect walk through fire without flinching. Not because she's fearless, but because she learned fear didn't help her when she was with you. And just when you think it's over, it isn't. Because this transformation cuts both ways. Her rise exposes the parts of you that never rose at all. If you miss this truth, brother, you repeat the same mistakes with the next woman who tries to love you. There's a point in every marriage where resentment becomes sediment. It settles, layers, hardens. Women bury it because arguing feels pointless after a while. Men mistake that stillness for peace. But resentment doesn't die. It evolves. It becomes a shield. Then it becomes armor. Then it becomes the reason she looks at you one day like she's looking at someone she used to know. I could feel something inside me turning when I realized this. Every memory I thought was not that serious was actually her collecting emotional receipts. And once the divorce hits, she spends them all at once. If you ignore this, the cycle repeats. Not because she was broken, but because you never learned how to read emotional warning signs before they became battlefields. This one hurts the deepest. Because men cling to the version of her they met, the soft one, the forgiving one, the girl who would bend just to keep the connection alive. But that was never her final form. That was her hopeful form, the one built from innocence, belief, and the idea that love was enough. After the divorce, she becomes the version created by reality, by scars, by disappointments, by the weight of trying to love a man who didn't look in the mirror until she walked away. This is the delayed tension reveal. You didn't lose the best version of her. You lost the version that wanted you. And if you miss this insight, you'll chase women who look like her old self while ignoring the work that would turn you into a man worthy of her new self. Her kindness becomes select. Her trust becomes earned. Her attention becomes rationed. Her heart becomes guarded like a city that's been raided too many times. She used to let you into her thoughts without hesitation. Now she thinks twice before letting anyone see her vulnerability. And for the first time, you see her building boundaries you didn't know she was capable of. Not out of spite, not out of revenge, out of survival. Men learn this too late. A woman's boundaries after a divorce are built from all the places she let you inside without protection. If you ignore this, you'll enter your next relationship with the same carelessness that broke the last one. During the marriage, you were the stable one, the logical one, the one who could shut down emotions like flipping a switch. After the divorce, she's the calm one, she's the centered one, she's the one who looks like she's walking out of smoke without coughing. You're the emotional one now. You're the one replaying moments in your head. You're the one feeling your chest tighten when you hear her laugh in a place you don't belong anymore. There was a quiet second, and everything clicked. You realize she's not rising to hurt you. She's rising because she finally stopped bleeding. If you miss this insight, you will think every woman who grows without you is betraying you, when in reality, she's simply healing from who she was when she was with you. And that's when the air shifted again. Because revelations don't come in order. They come in waves, one hitting your chest, one hitting your memory, one hitting your ego, and one hitting the innocence you didn't know you'd lost. The real twist isn't that she becomes someone new. The real twist is that the transformation exposes the man you didn't become. This is the moment most men break, not because she's changed, but because the mirror she left behind is finally honest. A marriage is like a building that both people swear is fireproof. But one day, the smoke starts coming from the walls. You ignore it. She breathes it in. You open windows. She coughs through it. You assume it'll clear. She assumes no one is coming to save her. By the time you notice the flames, she's already walking out of the building, and the woman who steps into fresh air is not the woman who burned inside with you. You start seeing things that sting in ways you don't talk about. A new confidence in her eyes, a different posture when she walks, a tone in her voice without the heaviness you left in her, a life that doesn't orbit around you anymore. You don't want her back. You want the version of yourself that didn't lose her. That's the wound. That's the bruise you hide under strength and silence. And right when you think it's over, it isn't. Because her transformation isn't the ending, it's the blueprint for what you need to become. If you ever want a love that doesn't collapse under the weight of your unspoken weaknesses. Brother, part 3 is where the floor really drops. Because after the divorce, there's a layer of truth most men refuse to look at. Not because it's complicated, but because it's accurate. Brutally accurate. The kind of accuracy that stings in the teeth. And the room felt different all of a sudden. Because this isn't about what she becomes. It's about what rises in you when she finally stops carrying the weight you didn't know she carried. There's a moment, usually late at night, where her absence hits you like a cold brick to the ribcage. Not her body, not her voice, but the gravity she used to give your life without even trying. You feel it when you wake up and the air tastes empty. When you make coffee and realize she used to take the first sip. When you hear the door click and instinctively think she's coming home, only to remember she doesn't live in your story anymore. Internal monologue hits you like a confession you avoided for years. Did I even know her? Or did I only know the version that made my life easier? The silence changed before the truth did, and that's how you know the shift is real. If you miss this insight, the cycle repeats. Your next relationship collapses under the same blind gravity you didn't feel until she walked away. Men don't like hearing this, so listen closely. She didn't leave the man you think you are. She left the man you were becoming. That's the delayed tension reveal nobody wants to face. You weren't losing her. You were losing yourself in slow motion, and she was the first one to notice. When you stop trying, she starts fading. When you stop listening, she stops speaking. When you stop growing, she starts planning her escape. Her transformation after divorce isn't random. It's a reaction to every version of you that didn't show up. And just when you think it's over, it isn't. Because the part that hurts the worst is understanding she didn't fall out of love with you. She fell out of love with waiting. If you ignore this, you'll carry the same stagnation into every future connection. This one is dark, brother, because men mistake her calmness for coldness, her clarity for attitude, her boundaries for revenge. But really, she's just finally showing you the version of herself that stopped pretending. You see her say no without softening her tone. You see her walk away from conflict instead of begging you to understand. You see her protect her peace like it's her last possession. That's accuracy. That's precision. That's a woman who has finally learned what costs her energy and what fuels her life. Men interpret that accuracy as punishment because we're not used to women choosing themselves over us. I could feel something inside me turning the first time I realized that truth. Like the bones in my chest shifted into a shape I didn't recognize. If you miss this insight, you'll call every strong woman cold instead of realizing she's just done being your emotional safety net. Listen carefully. Her post-divorce transformation isn't new. It's overdue. The confidence she has now, she needed it during the relationship. The boundaries she sets now, she needed them when you kept brushing off the small things. The independence she carries now, she needed it every time she felt like she was holding the relationship together with threadbare hope. This transformation is retroactive. It's the version of her she always had the potential to be, but couldn't access while she was trying to save the relationship. And right when you think this is the worst part, it isn't. Because the version of you she needed back then wasn't unreachable. You just weren't paying attention. If you miss this, Every future woman will grow without you while you wonder why they always outpace you emotionally. Women break during the relationship. Men break after it ends. It's one of the darkest truths of male psychology. Your heart doesn't shatter when she walks out. It shatters when you realize she's healing without you. That's when the emotional delay catches up. That's when the nights get heavy. That's when your hands feel restless and your chest feels hollow. The timing isn't fair, but it's accurate. She processed the loss while she was still with you. You process it when she's already gone. If you miss this, you'll keep thinking women move on too fast, when in reality you're just mourning at half speed. This is the cut that goes deepest, not because it's cruel, but because it's true. When she starts healing, leveling up, rebuilding her life with structure and fire, your ego takes a hit. Not because she's doing better, but because her growth puts a spotlight on every part of you that stayed the same. You see her take risks. You see her speak confidently. You see her move through the world without fear. And something inside you whispers, "Why wasn't I growing too?" This is the contradiction. You want to be proud of her, but you can't, because it feels like she evolved away from you. And just when you think the discomfort is done, it isn't. Because her evolution doesn't stop, it accelerates. If you miss this insight, you'll resent women for growing instead of resenting yourself for staying still. There's a moment, usually weeks or months after the divorce, when you start remembering her in a way that isn't accurate. Not because you're lying to yourself, but because grief edits the past. You remember her laugh, but forget the distance in her eyes. You remember her touch, but forget the tension in her shoulders. You remember the good days in high definition and the bad days in blurry fragments. That's how memory protects you and destroys you. You don't miss her. You miss the edited version of her your mind built to avoid accountability. And when that truth hits you, you feel your chest tighten, your jaw clench, your breath hitch in your throat. There was a quiet second, and everything clicked. You're not grieving the relationship. You're grieving the man you were supposed to become and never did. If you miss this insight, you'll chase ghosts instead of building a future. Brother, here's the darkest revelation of them all, the one men avoid, deny, argue, and run from. You were not the man you thought you were. Not because you were a monster, not because you didn't care, but because you were running on autopilot, living through habits, responding with patterns, surviving instead of leading. Her transformation forces you to see the parts of yourself you hid behind routine. The complacency, the immaturity, the emotional laziness, the unspoken resentment, the fear of vulnerability, the refusal to grow. And when those truths start surfacing, it feels like your soul is being peeled open. And just when you think it's over, it isn't. Because the final punch comes when you realize she didn't become someone new. She just stopped being someone small. You're the one who stayed the same. If you miss this insight, you will repeat your own downfall in every future relationship. Guaranteed. And that's when the air shifted again. Not because of her, but because of you. Because the truth finally lands with full weight. Her rebirth wasn't the shock. Your awakening is, brother. This is the part men avoid until life forces it into their hands. The part where the pain stops being something you hide and starts becoming something you sharpen. Because after the divorce, after the shock, the silence, the sting, there comes a moment where you stop staring at her transformation and finally see the outline of your own. And that's when the air shifted. Not because she became someone new, but because you finally understood you could too. There's something primal that happens in a man when he stops blaming the world and starts listening to the quiet inside his own chest. You wake up one morning and the grief feels different. Heavier, but cleaner. Like a weight you're meant to carry, not a wound you're meant to bleed from. You feel the cold morning air on your skin. You feel your heartbeat in your hands. You feel your lungs expand like they're finally remembering how to work. And for the first time since she left, you're not collapsing. You're anchoring. This is the moment most men never notice. If you stand still long enough to face yourself, something inside you begins to shift. You stop chasing closure from her and start seeking clarity from yourself. You stop replaying her transformation and start confronting your own stagnation. You stop fighting the past and start building the version of you that should have existed years ago. This isn't about winning her back. This is about winning yourself back. A man doesn't become stronger by avoiding pain. He becomes stronger by taking responsibility for the pieces of him that were too soft, too silent, too asleep. You learn to speak before your silence turns to resentment, to listen before her voice becomes a warning, to lead yourself before you try to lead someone else, to grow before life forces you to evolve, to protect your peace as fiercely as you used to protect your pride. You stop being reactive, you become intentional, and that's where the armor forms. In the decisions you make when no one is watching, in the discipline you practice when no one applauds you, in the growth you choose even when no one believes you've changed. The room felt different all of a sudden, because this time, it wasn't her leaving that changed you. It was you refusing to stay the same. Remember the hook? After the divorce, what your wife becomes will shock you. Here's the truth you weren't ready for until now. The real shock isn't who she becomes. It's who you can become when you stop mourning the man you were and start building the man you were meant to be. Her transformation was the earthquake. Yours is the aftershock that rebuilds the ground. If even one part of this felt like your life, you and I are built from the same scars. Not identical, not perfect, not broken. Just men who finally saw themselves clearly after losing something they thought they'd never lose. The scar doesn't make you weak. The scar proves you healed. And here's where the stakes get real. If you don't change now, you stay stuck. You repeat the pattern. You lose again. Not because women are complicated, but because you refuse to evolve. But if you rise, if you take the pain and forge it, you become the kind of man who never fears loss again. Because the man who understands himself has already done the hardest work a man can do. And just when you think the moment is done, it isn't. Because now the responsibility shifts to you. Picture yourself standing in that quiet room, finally choosing strength, not waiting for her, not waiting for closure, not waiting for time to heal you, just you, on your own 2 feet, facing the man in the mirror and realizing he's still capable of greatness. That's the transformation that matters. That's the evolution she'll never see, but you will live. This is where your story begins, not when she left, but when you decided not to stay broken.